this is probably the most controversial and unconventional talk that I've ever given in a Yocto context, because it talks about when you probably do not want to use Yocto. It is actually kind of serious, which means it is unlike my usual talks. So no yoga involved, no Lego minifigs, no random strangers. And to properly reflect this fact of my talk, I just run off to get this beautiful favorite coffee cup of mine, which essentially says no, just no in German, and it is filled with mulled wine instead of a beer. Because, you know, I usually have a beer, and to celebrate the special occasion, I'm going for something else. Okay, let's get started. Click. So probably most people know me already in some way or the other. All of the evil rumors are actually true. My name is Josef, and my professional life, I am head of developer relations for Mender.io, which means I talk about over-the-air updates most of the time. And if I'm not talking about over-the-air updates, then I talk about Yocto, which means I got Yocto Project Ambassador at some point in time. And I also, even more talking, I run a lot of stuff for Open Embedded. Some of you have probably just this afternoon received a mail blast that I caused. Completely unrelated, I am a so-called community hero for Gitpod, which is, let's say, Docker plus VS Code on a lot of steroids in your browser. It is sometimes useful, sometimes not. Go and see for yourself. I am really easy to reach, either by mail or by Twitter, or nowadays by Mastodon. I even have an Instagram account where I post random cheesy stuff from my hacking days and not so hacking things. And you are in one virtual room with me. So I encourage you to just like speak up and drop things in the chat. I am a very interactive speaker. Usually I throw chocolates unless I'm in a virtual room for obvious reasons, because I have to eat everything after the show myself. John, if you manage to send a carrier pigeon from your place to mine, then I will gladly answer in the same means, just to find out. Okay? Deal. So with the usual introductions and clarifications out of the way, let's get started. One of my personal beliefs is that whenever you need to fulfill some task, then you have to understand the task and also have a proper tool set and understand the tools so you can actually fulfill the task in a proper manner. This sounds like obvious, but it actually is not, because not every tool fits every task, as we know, and still a lot of both craftsmen and software developers suffer the same mental, let's say, disability of not adhering to this simple truth. The law of the instrument, as worded by Abraham Maslow, if my Googling was correct, is if the only tool you have is a hammer, then it is tempting to treat everything as if it were a nail. If you word it like that, then it sounds like, of course, that's everybody knows to use the right tool. But you have to even know that there is another tool. And this is the problem that we often face in software engineering. It is not the next big thing that will magically solve your problem, but you have to know about the next thing and understand what it is actually meant for, and let's say what context it can be helpful in. But it's not only the next thing, you also have to roughly understand and know the ecosystem of technologies and tools that do probably not even apply to your particular task. But there will be a day when you have a task, and then you should not be stuck in the tool set that you are using these days, or transferring my ramblings just now to the Yocto project, if your favorite tool for building a Linux distribution is the Yocto project, which I hope it is, then it is very tempting to treat every Linux distribution as if it should be built by the Yocto project. And that is just not true. And that's what I will be talking about in the next couple of minutes. As usual, again, very, very interactive. You can ask and disagree with me each and every time, because in the following slides, I guess at least one listener of this presentation will say, no, you are not right, because in my case, and then I will say, yes, that's okay, because my case is not your case. And all of this allows for a lot of, let's say, variation and how it applies to your specific task and also work surroundings. We've just had one user at the #Yocto channel this very morning, not making this up. He said, how can I build Yocto on a Windows desktop or on our Windows laptop? Because IT won't give me another one. And we all will obviously say, that's stupid. You need a Linux machine. And yes, that is technically right. John says, get a VM. That's another option. And that's what I mean. If you are on a Windows machine and you can't get anything else, then just blindly saying use a VM is probably possible, but will give you a very bad result, because VMs are the literal hammer these days. Everybody packs everything into a VM and hopes for the best after that. The next worst tool is Docker, because if you don't pack it in a VM, everybody packs stuff into Docker. But maybe you can use WSL too. Maybe you can get a GitHub pipeline or whatever going. So, or get a better IT department, or set up your own shadow IT, as a lot of people do. And I am pretty convinced that Randy actually had a bunch of them. And so the key is know your tool set. Don't always say, oh, I'll just pack it in a VM or in Docker. But yeah, we are talking so much. It's time for a drink first, and then we go to real content. So you don't need Yocto for this. Board bring up. If you've got a board fresh from the production floor on your desk, you draw the schematics, or your coworker drew the schematics. They finally assembled everything. They maybe even smoke tested it. They put it on your desk, and they say, now make this thing boot. And then, yes, you technically could start with setting up a whole Yocto environment, grabbing the BSP already, and everything. But you then actually want that, right? Because you will be busy with U-boot usually, or a comparable solution, maybe with several stages of it. I call it proprietary because it is a solution that only is relevant for 8091. It's not. This is not an opinion on the legal or license situation of 8091 Bootstrap. I apologize for the unclear formula I used. Sorry. But you are battling with code that you just want to compile and run. And for that, well, you usually just need a tool chain that works for your architecture. And most of the cases you are going for ARM, because most of the stuff is ARM these days. And then you can grab a tool chain that will just work for you at Linaro. And if you need more crazy stuff, then I recently looked into the stuff by Bootlin. They seem to have an excellent selection of ready-to-download binary tool chains to rock about every crazy stuff that you can even find. Why is that enough? Because the bootloaders are self-contained. A bootloader does not or is not even able to rely on libraries or on the glibc or whatever. It is technically completely statically linked. So the toolchain in itself is really enough. Get your stuff working with that. And once you have that figured out, then polish your patch set, see what is applicable to upstream, be a good citizen, upstream that stuff, document what is not upstreamable, make the patches usable for your coworkers that come after you or next to you or whatever. And then you can proceed to other things. And then you might even use Yocto. But for the initial bring up, seriously, don't do it. Next board bring up story, hardware. Because booting is not everything. If you are on a relatively trivial board that only has like one LED and can boot, and the rest is all on pin headers, well, then yeah, sure, board bring up is done when it boots, because then there is nothing else. But in an industrial context, you very often have a lot of peripherals in there. You have different memories, you have different interfaces, like network connectivity, very crazy networks. And you usually do only want to make those work. Most of them will have a, let's say, generic toolset that you can use to poke. If it's I2C, there's the I2C tools where you can scan the bus and everything. And if it's GPIO, then you can literally just use bash. If it's scan, you can also use some fancy things. And but you usually do not want these tools in your production build because it's completely irrelevant, and you don't care about the reproducibility of this image, because the image is not going anywhere. You need something to poke the hardware in a coordinated manner, and once you're happy with that, then you can probably throw it away and hand the board off to somebody who really does proper software maintenance. And now I think you can all go batshit crazy on me. Why not use Buildroot? Because it just builds faster. The kernel is defined as a syscall interface, and it will be usually good enough to have that kind of tinkering. If you're a student sitting in your lab and you just have limited access in terms of time, and you just want I2C tools to work and to be able to see something on the scope, hey, don't waste your time making an image that is suitable for 10 years maintenance. You just don't need it. It's a waste of your time. If you want 10 years maintenance and you have to do it, then feel free to join Yocto again. And yes, I already said shorter build time, but it's easier to configure. As we all know, Yocto has a plethora of tuning screws. Let's also call them variables, or let's call them settings. And yes, we can do awesome stuff with that. But yeah, you have to know them. Whereas in Buildroot, you crank up your kconfig and you select the things that you want and you get an image. Like I said, you really can't take it that far usually. But if you're not going to go that far anyways, well then it's a good fit for you. Last one, I guess, before I get kicked out of this conference is, oh no, it's not the last one, it's the second to last one. Is the Maker project. If you are just making one, if you take a Raspberry and you make some crazy stuff for it, tinkering with the GPIOs, connecting a motion sensor to it, then when that will, or a proximity sensor, that whenever you enter your office will turn on the coffee machine and play your favorite metal song. That is cool. Everybody loves that. But do you really want Yocto for that? Probably not. because if it is connected, you should get security updates for it in some way. You are probably not doing that. You make it work only once. You tinker it as long as needed to have it fulfill the requirement that you have or that you want to do. And then you just put it into the corner. And if you are very, very good in maintaining your stuff, then you SSH into it once a month and are willing to run apt-get update, apt-get dist upgrade to pull in the last fixes and then keep it running for another month. You don't want Yocto for this because you will not replicate that. You want a steady flow of packages, security fixes and bug fixes coming in. You want to smash your office, as I just did, gesturing around, and you usually want to tinker in hardware. You set it up, you go a little bit ahead, and then you say, oh, I need this dependency. And then you just want to type like py install whatever, apt-get install whatever, and then go from there. You probably don't even document all of your stuff. So really, if you're doing this, stick with whatever comes with that board, and this is the easiest to access. Maybe you don't even need an operating system and an Arduino is enough. Then you can even have proper version control. If you're on a Raspi or whatever, stick with Raspi OS, bang at it until it works, put it in your shelf, and be happy that it works. You will have an easier life and more time for things that really matter. Having said that, if you're putting the Raspberry Pi into a product that you sell, then please use Yocto. And the last one, that is my personal favorite. You don't want to use Yocto when you actually want Ubuntu, right? So this is a post I ran into a number of years back. You can see the timestamp 27, and the asker literally says, I just want Ubuntu, but I should build it with Yocto. And then the answer clearly is, don't do it. If you want Ubuntu, please use Ubuntu. Don't make everybody around you miserable, including yourself, because you're trying to shoehorn something into something else that might be even working once, but it wastes a real lot of time for everybody involved. There will be anger, there will be screaming, and there will be all kinds of sword fighting because stuff is compiling needlessly. And in the end, I just got a lot of downvotes, and nobody's helped because actually, and that's the best and most fun part on this, there was an accepted answer that I didn't link because I don't want to give away who did it. That was nicely upvoted, and that said, oh, of course you can do it. You just need to use this crazy patched up whatever layer stuff from NXP, and then you totally can build Ubuntu with Yocto. And I was like, good job, man. I'm pretty sure this is perfectly maintainable. Why just not use Ubuntu as is? With that, I really beg you, if Yocto does not fit your task, then do not use Yocto, because it will just be painful for everybody involved. Just a short bumper slide, what I actually do for a living. Feel free to reach out for me in any of that.